Hello, Petal. How you doing? I see that there was some really good views on Paint Your Dragon, and for a first chapter, that is amazing. Thank you for the likes. I do appreciate them, and they keep the lights on. As ever, it would be awesome if you could leave a like for me, hit the notifications bell, share and subscribe if you want to. It all helps the channel, and I do appreciate it very much, and I appreciate you for being here. It's just... I was saying to my lovely friend just the other day that it's been a lovely year, and we've got this and probably Here Comes the Sun to do by the end of the year. I think it'll be done by the end of the year, no problem. And you look back at this year and what we've all achieved together, and it's so heartwarming. It really is. And yeah, now I'm getting all squishy and soppy, and don't tell anybody because I might think I've got a heart. Right then, my lovely beans, let's get on with Paint Your Dragon by the amazing Mr. Thomas Holt, Chapter 2. It can't, Bianca protested, just have disappeared. Mike shrugged and made a pantomime of patting his pockets and poking about in Bianca's tool bag. "B, love, it's a bit big, a tad on the big side to have rolled away and fallen down a grating somewhere. Of course it's flaming well disappeared. Obviously someone's pinched it." Pinched a 15-foot-long statue of a dragon? Kids, maybe? Bored housewife who didn't know what came over her? Don't be so bloody stupid. It'd take a whole day just to saw it off the plinth. True. Mike peered down at the stone beneath St. George's Charger's hooves. And no saw marks either. In fact, no marks of any kind. You know, this is downright peculiar. Peculiar. Bianca closed her mouth, which had fallen open. Mike, if ever Mars challenges us to an understatement match, I'm going to nominate you for team captain. What the hell am I going to do? Mike scratched his head. You could start by telling somebody. The police, Birmingham City Council, Kawaguchi are integrated. He met Bianca's eye. Comparable meetings include that between Napoleon and Wellington at Waterloo, and the encounter between Muhammad Ali's solar plexus and Joe Frazier's fist back in 1974. Quite, he said. "Oh, I see what you mean. This is going to be a problem, isn't it?" "Yes." Do you think, Mike suggested, after a moment's consideration, that you could sort of talk your way out of this? I mean, it's your blasted statue. Convince them that there never was a dragon to begin with. Sort of St. George and the implied dragon. St. George just practising. St. George an imaginary friend. No, maybe not. Or you could lose the armour, fiddle around with the sword a bit and rename it the Polo Player. Mike. Okay, I'm just bouncing a few ideas here. Yeah, why not just call it Study for St. George and... Bianca closed her eyes and massaged them with the heel of her hand. What I can't imagine, she said, is what the hell can have happened to it? I mean, dragons don't just get up and walk away. Just to move something that size, you'd need cranes, flat-bodied trucks, hydraulics, all that stuff. Believe me, she added, I know. When I delivered that cameo group of mother and child in Macclesfield last year, they had to close off 15 streets. They stood for a few seconds longer, staring at the absence, a distinctly dragon-shaped absence, but an absence nevertheless. Compared to how Bianca was feeling about vacuums, nature was honorary treasurer of their fan club. Well, said Bianca at last, there's no point standing here like trainee lampposts. Help me cover the dratted thing up, what's left of it, and I'll get on to the wholesalers for some more wide Carrera. Only hope they can match the grain. Mike nodded. What about him? He added, jerking a thumb at St. George. Want me to put a padlock on him or something? Bianca gave him the last in a succession of withering looks. It was one of those looks that could have actually carved a replacement statue for her at that particular point, but it didn't have a chisel at hand. "Get real," she sighed. "Who the hell is going to steal a statue?" Chug, chug, chug. An elderly coach, the sort of vehicle that can still call itself a charabanc and get away with it, burbles slowly and cheerfully like a relaxed bumblebee along a winding Oxfordshire lane. On either side of the road, Cotswold sheep, as self-consciously picturesque as the most highly paid supermodel, ruminate and regurgitate in timeless serenity. Thatched cottages, tile-roofed golden stone farmhouses, evocatively falling down old barns, and the last surviving old-fashioned telephone boxes in Albion are the only footprints left here by the long march of humanity. And if these works of his hand were all you had to go by, you'd be forgiven for thinking that man wasn't a bad old stick after all. For this is the rural Thames Valley. Narrator's note. I know it very well. I used to live down there. Absolutely gorgeous. I used to live 10 minutes from Stonehenge in Andover. Many, many moons ago in a life I left behind. It's nice to pop over to Glastonbury every now and again, and then pop down to London. Happy times. I digress. For this is the rural Thames Valley, the land that time forgot, scenery pickled in formaldehyde. If England was Dorian Gray, this would be the watercolour landscape he keeps in his attic. Inevitably, and on schedule, there to the left of the coach is a village cricket match. Narrator's note. It is a thing. Fates, cricket matches, dog shows. Seriously, June and July in like Wiltshire, Dorset and Hampshire. Seriously, it's all like this. Thatched cottages, like twiddly birds and all that sort of stuff. Believe me, Thames Valley and Thames Valley were right next to each other. You know, I digress again. Oh, memories. Oh, the black bear in Banbury. Was it black bear in Banbury? Anyway, and the big red-faced man toiling up to the crease with his bat in hand is ineluctably the village blacksmith. For a slice of living paleontology, forget Jurassic Park and come to North Oxon. And here is the village, and here is the village green, and here are the ducks. The coach pulls up, wheezing humorously, and the passengers spill out. 15 elderly ladies with flasks and sandwiches, deck chairs and knitting. It's all so sweet you could use it to flavour tea. 30 seconds later, a black transit van with tinted windows purrs noiselessly up and parks at the back of the green. The doors do not open. It lurks. The old ladies have laid out their tartan rugs and, after much comical byplay and merry laughter, put up their deck chairs. The sun is shining, tea flows, sandwiches are eaten. Time is, of course, not a constant. Science would have you believe that it potters along at a fixed, unalterable speed, never accelerating, never slowing down, rather like a milk float. Big joke. Time has a gearbox. It can dawdle and it can race. This, in turn, can result in absolute chaos. Supply and demand, twin pillars of the cosmos, apply to all things, and time is no exception. In some places, such as this sleepy and idyllic village, they scarcely use any of the stuff. Now, in Los Angeles, Tokyo and the city of London, where time is actually money, they burn it off at a furious rate. And try as they might to wring every little last drop of value out of each passing second, their officially allotted ration is pitifully inadequate. Sceptical? Now, here's concrete evidence. Think how much time 20 pence buys you in a car park in Chipping Norton and the equivalent figure in central London. Where there is supply and demand, wherever there are unfulfilled shortages, there have always been entrepreneurs ready and willing to step in and sort things out. There are no exceptions to this rule. The black market in time is probably the biggest growth area in the whole of the unofficial economy. It's also the most antisocial, which is why it's such a closely guarded secret. Now, the sandwiches have been eaten. Jam tarts appear. Narrator's note, freaking love me a good jam tart. I digress. Someone produces, as if from thin air, a wind-up gramophone. Something truly, truly horrible is about to happen. It works like this. Time proverbially flies when you're enjoying yourself, or put rather more scientifically, pleasure electrolyzes time. The mere act of a human being unreservedly enjoying himself acts as a catalyst, speeding up the decay of raw time in the atmosphere. In the same way, misery, suffering, and having to go to work impede the decay of time, causing a massive build-up of the stuff. In primitive rural communities, for example, where peasants grind out lives of bleak, hopeless toil, time seems to stand still until the very stones of the cottages and turf of the fields are marinated in the stuff. To drill for time, therefore, find a spot where countless generations of wretched serfs have had to get up at 5:30 every morning to milk bad-tempered cows. Having located the spot, shout, "There's time in them there hills," and assemble your drilling rig. Now, this will consist of between 7 and 20 happy souls who are blessed with the rare ability thoroughly to enjoy themselves, unself-consciously and without stint. Research has shown that little old ladies on outings do this best, with thirsty male Australians coming in a close second. Combine the little old ladies with the idyllic unspoilt village and stand well back, because you've just unleashed a chain reaction that makes nuclear fission seem wimpish in comparison, and be warned, it's not a pretty sight. Inside the black transit, a small machine begins to run. Someone chuckles unpleasantly and mutters, "Time, gentlemen, please," and throws a switch. For the first 30 seconds, nothing much happens. Nothing visible, anyway. The first perceptible changes are to the buildings. Thatch molts, dry stone walls collapse, oak beams sag, entropy, acting as fast as the soluble aspirin of your dreams, is tearing the place apart as the surplus time is leached out of the fabric. Then, because nature abhors a vacuum, raw present rushes in to take the place of the fossilised past, in the same way as a worked-out gravel pit floods with water. Thatch is replaced with tile, stone with brick and breeze block, barns fade away and are replaced by barn conversions, complete with upper middle-class occupants and a brace of Porsches in the driveway. Suddenly, there's a development of 96 executive retirement homes in the old orchard behind the village green. A business park springs mushroom-like out of the ground, where a minute ago there were only cows. Cars sprout up beside the highway like newly sown dragon's teeth. The hand pumps in the public bar turn seamlessly into plastic boxes, and 3 racks of videos, parthenogenetically, appear in the window of the post office. Narrator's note, flipping Henry, that was a long one. I digress. We warned you, this is not a sight for the squeamish. It's enough to make Stephen King sleep with the light on for a week. The old ladies don't seem to have noticed. They're exchanging photographs of their grandchildren and playing Snap, while all around them the village green trembles like the San Andreas fault having a temper tantrum, and design and build starter homes flip up out of the ground like poppers on a pinball table. In the black transit, now parked in the car park of the brand new plastics factory, the little machine is buzzing like a tortured wasp. A big glass bottle, coddled and cosseted in gyroscopically mounted cradles, lead and cotton wool, slowly fills. When the meniscus reaches the 20-centilitre mark, the operator yanks back the handle, opens the door of the van and blows a whistle. The old ladies stop what they're doing, grab their deck chairs and empty picnic baskets to make a run for the coach. Both vehicles gun their engines and race off with much spinning of wheels and burning of rubber, because a village green in the process of going critical is no place to be. In fact, they've almost left it too late. Just behind them, the road uproots itself and contorts like a wounded python, coiling itself around a series of mini roundabouts and branching off into a series of service roads leading to the new complex of out-of-town supermarkets. They're level with the village church when it detonates and turns itself into a drive-in leisure multiplex, and only by standing on the accelerator can the driver get the coach clear of the Jacobean manor house before it implodes and shape changes into Kawaguchia Integrated Circuit Southeast Regional Management Training Centre. A close shave, and the world owes a large debt of gratitude to the driver for all that he's a myrmidon of the time thieves Mr. Big, because the transit van is carrying 20 centilitres of raw time destined to fill a lucrative order from Wall Street, which is frantically trying to make the most of the last few weeks of a Republican administration. And the thought of what would happen if that much 98% pure stuff were to go off is enough to freeze the brain. Raw time, spontaneously detonating in the Earth's chronological field, historical meltdown, a time bomb. The man in the black transit is Chubby Stevenson, also known as the Temporizer and Mr. Timeshare. Procrastination was framed. Chubby is the greatest thief of time the world has ever seen. In his purpose-built silo, 500 feet under the Nevada desert, he has 416 litres of the stuff, enough to reprise the Renaissance and play Desert Island decades. Do you suffer from persistent nostalgia? Do you wish it could be the 60s all over again? Just send your order, together with a banker's draft with more notes on it than there are portholes in the sides of a transatlantic liner, to Mr. C. Stevenson, P.O. Box 666, Las Monedas, Nevada. Trying to get the petrol out of a scorpion tank, the dragon discovered the hard way, is like breaking into a can of Coke after the little ring ball thing is snapped off and you haven't got a tin opener. It calls for ingenuity, patience, and very robust fingernails. 2 out of 3 will do at a pinch, and having slaked his thirst, the dragon relaxed, closed his eyes, and considered the situation, both in the short and medium term. Now, he wasn't, in his opinion, excessively thin-skinned, which is just as well considering the number of things that had been fired at him in the last 12 minutes. But he did get the impression that for some reason the humans had taken against him rather. Apart from a broken claw and some light bruises, the tanks hadn't bothered him very much, and the petrol was much more to his taste than all those funny drinks. But the next escalation of human disapproval would probably be aircraft, and he knew from recent observation that those things had rather more biff to them than the little self-propelled cocktail shakers. Time, he decided regretfully, to make himself inconspicuous, which would mean having to quit this exceptionally stylish and well-designed body for a while and go back into boring, silly, two-legged mufti. A pity, particularly since it was now nicely fueled up and ready to go. He had business here in England, but it wouldn't take long. Once that was out of the way, the world was his oyster, and there were bound to be big flat open spaces where a dragon could be without getting shot at all the time by cultural degenerates. So, undercover, do the job, and then we're out of here. Can't, frankly, wait. He opened his wings and, having disposed of the empties tidily by dropping them in the sea, he soared up above the clouds, giving as wide a berth as possible to any aircraft his exceptional senses detected, and circled round until he saw what he was looking for. When he saw his chance, he swooped. At more or less the same moment as the dragon was mangling armoured fighting vehicles on the playing fields of Lancashire, someone who had been asleep for a very long time woke up. You know what it's like when you've overslept? Head full of sawdust, eyelids as difficult to open as painted over window frames, interior of mouth tasting so repulsive you wonder who's been doing what in it while you've been sleeping. Now multiply that by a couple of 1,000 years and maybe you've got the idea. "Where," muttered George to himself, "the fuck am I?" A pigeon, who was sitting on his head, removed his head from his armpit and looked around. "Who said that?" it demanded. George, who could understand the language of birds, cleared his throat. "Down here," he said. "What, you?" "Yes, me." "The statue?" "Yes." "Jeez." The pigeon froze, kebabbed with embarrassment. I didn't know statues could. Look, I really am terribly sorry. I cleared it all off, I promise. I'm
Not really, George explained. A statue.
I see. You're a very big grey person lying absolutely still. Well, it takes all sorts, I can see that. I just naturally assumed you were a statue. If you'll just bear with me, I can be back with a cloth and some white spirit before you can say,
Shut up and listen, you stupid bird. I'm inside the statue. Well, sort of. I'm a saint.
The pigeon hesitated a while before replying.
Fine, it said. Where I come from, we call that a non sequitur, but never mind. Logic is for wimps, right?
I am a saint.
George repeated, the fuel gauge on his patience edging audibly into the red.
I appear to have reincarnated into a statue of myself, and before you ask, I have no idea why. Now then, where is this?
George looked round, a circumscribed view, since he couldn't move his head, but sufficient for his purposes.
Ghastly, awful, God-forsaken place. Last thing I knew, I was in open countryside.
Birmingham, replied the pigeon promptly. West Midlands, Metropolitan District, England, Europe, population.
Never heard of it.
Really?
The pigeon sounded surprised.
Been away long?
Last time I looked, it was 100 and something AD.
Now, pigeons cannot whistle. No, narrators nor lips, you see. There's a joke about chickens in there somewhere, but I digress.
Struth, mate. That's a long time. 1800 years, give or take a bit. This is...
The pigeon counted on its feathers.
1998 June. Welcome back.
It added tentatively. George swivelled his eyeballs.
I sincerely hope I'm not stopping, he replied. Whatever happened to grass? We used to have a lot of it in my day.
The pigeon shuffled its wings.
Still plenty of it about, it replied. But this is the middle of a city. Do they have cities then?
A few.
George stopped talking and winced. 2,000 years' worth of pins and needles was catching up with him. He said.
Problem?
My leg hurts. Go on with what you were saying.
About Birmingham. Okay. Right as Britain's second largest city. In its 19th century heyday, Birmingham truly merited its proud title of Workshop of the World. Post-war recessions and the decline of British industry in general have inevitably left their mark, but the city continues to breed a defiantly positive and dynamic mercantile
pigeon.
Yes?
I think, said George, I can now move my right arm. With it, as you may have observed, I am holding a very big sword. Unless you stop drivelling, I shall take this very big sword and shove it right up.
All right, replied the pigeon, offended. You were the one who asked. Anyway, it added, that's a fine way for a saint to talk, if I must say.
George's eyebrows were mobile again, and he frowned.
Is it?
The pigeon nodded.
Sure. You're supposed to be all meek and holy and stuff.
Bollocks.
Straight up, I know these things. My address, the Old Blocked Gutter, West Riv, St Chad's Cathedral, Birmingham 4. I know a lot of religion.
The pigeon continued proudly.
Especially the lilies of the field and St Francis of Assisi. Saints don't deaf and blind, it's the rules.
Shows what you know, George replied. Right, I'm going to move now, so I suggest you piss off and go and sit somewhere else. Before you go, however, I want you to tell me where a man can get a drink round here.
A drink?
The pigeon repeated.
Milk.
Don't be bloody stupid.
Water then.
Booze, George snarled. Alcohol. Fermented liquor.
A horrible thought struck him.
They do still have it, don't they? Please tell me they haven't done away with it, because...
Sure they do, the pigeon said. Beer and wine and gin and stuff makes your mobs sing a lot and fall over. Saints don't drink, though. Well-known fact.
What
You know about saints, muttered George. You could write on a grape pip in big letters. Just point me in the right direction and then clear off before I use you to wipe my sodding nose.
The pigeon made the closest approximation it could do to a disapproving tut and extended a wingtip.
Draft Mitchell and Butlers, it said. A word of warning, though.
Well?
Pigeons, Mother Nature's flying diplomatic corps.
The sword,
it said.
The armour, the horse, the being 7.5 feet high, frowned upon.
Yeah?
Times change,
said the pigeon.
Not to mention fashions. Can you do anything about that?
I'm not sure.
George concentrated.
Apparently I can. Is this better?
The pigeon looked down. It was now sitting on the head of a short bald man in a blue donkey jacket, jeans and scruffy trainers.
Fine,
it said.
How'd you do that?
George shrugged.
Don't know. Who cares? When I get there, what should I ask for?
The pigeon searched its memory. About a quarter of a bite, say a large nibble for a phrase overheard in crisp, shrapnel-rich beer gardens.
A pint of bitter, please, mate, and a packet of dry roasted peanuts. That usually does the trick.
A pint of bitter, please, mate, and a packet of dry roasted peanuts.
You've got it.
Right. A pint of bitter, please, mate, and a packet of dry roasted peanuts. A pint of bitter, please, mate, and a packet of dry roasted peanuts. So long, Birdbrain. A pint of bitter.
Standing on the empty plinth, the pigeon watched until George disappeared through the pub doorway, still rehearsing his line. It waited for a while, then it preened itself and decided to peck at a cigarette butt. 2 minutes or so later, the whole incident had been edited out of the active files of its mind and was held in limbo, awaiting deletion. And then the pigeon looked down. It was once again standing on a statue. Vaguely, it recalled something it had learned recently about statues. It took another look at what it was standing on.
Oh, shit,
it said to itself. Mike?
Yes?
Just come and have a look at this, will you? Instead of folding the tarpaulin, Bianca just let it fall. Then they stood for a while and took a long, hard look.
Swings and roundabouts,
Mike said eventually.
Snakes and ladders, maybe even omelettes and eggs.
What? Mike shrugged.
I'm trying to be balanced and unhysterical,
he said.
We now have the dragon back. True, we do seem to have lost St. George. But
slowly and very tentatively, Bianca leaned forwards. She laid the palm of her hand on the dragon's cold, scaly flank. Marble, solid, cool, bloody awkward to move about, stone. This, she said at last, is beginning to get on my nerves.
Maybe it's a form of advanced job sharing,
Mike suggested.
You know, like flexi time. I think West Midlands Council's all in favour of it, and I suppose you could just about classify these two as council employees.
Mike? Please, go away. Alone with her creation, Bianca thought long and hard. Sometimes she leaned against a statue, holding it. Sometimes she pressed her ear against it, as if listening. From time to time she kicked it. After a while, she opened her portfolio and studied some sketches and plans. She took out a tape and made some measurements, both of the statue and the surrounding area. She climbed up onto its front paws and sniffed its spectacular gaping jaws. A mother, they say, instinctively knows what her baby is thinking. If it's in trouble, she can feel it deep down inside. Bianca frowned. No, not trouble exactly. More sort of up to something. But what? Finally, she packed up, replaced the tarpaulin, and started to walk away. Having covered 10 yards, she turned, faced the statue, and put on her most menacing scowl. "Sit!" she commanded, and stalked off down Colmore Row.
It's so much fun. Freaking love this book. Can't even. It's just so nice reimagining them. And it's kind of like, you might have read something a couple of times before, but when you get down to it and you're going back to a book you haven't read in 20 years and you're just like sitting down and you're like, oh wow, and you remember how much you laughed and how you saw the characters, and oh my goodness, this is so good. Thank you so much for choosing this one. And I'm so excited for Here Comes the Sun as well. Oh my goodness. Yay. Oh dearie me, getting all hyping out. Okie dokie, so I will do my best to try and get another chapter done this week, which would be pretty awesome. So let's look at trying for Thursday or Friday. You know how it goes. I've been a bit flaky recently, so I will do my very best for that one for you. But yeah, if you can, like, subscribe, share, and YouTube. That's the technical term for it. If you can like the video, if you've got this far, that would be awesome. And if you want to comment with a little dragon emoji, that's even more awesomer. Let me know what you think. Tell me if you're enjoying it. Tell me how things are going. How's life? What's going on? I do like seeing all the comments and replying, and you are all just so awesome. I am very grateful for this little community we've got, and I do appreciate it very, very much. It's nice. It's nice. Brings me a lot of joy, and I hope it does for you too. Anyway, I'm going to stop being all sentimental and soppy and whatnot. I'm not going to do a song today. Thank you for your encouragement when I did it last time. It was pitiful though, mind, wasn't it? Oh my goodness. I was going to do the Fraggles, but I think I might leave that till the end. So we'll just go, we will mend it, we will fix it, we will stick it with scissors and glue. I should actually do the banana splits at some point. That'll be quite good. That'll be quite good fun, but we'll do the punk version by the Dickies. I had it on vinyl. Oh, happy days. I digress. Take care of yourselves. Take it easy. Keep warm if you're in a cold area. Keep cool if you're in a hot area. And always hydrate. And stuff like that. And good advice. But take it easy, petal. I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you.